And welcome into the latest edition of the Unpaid Interns. It is a special Tuesday edition, May 26th. Happy Memorial Day weekend to all of you out there. Hopefully you were able to spend it with your family and your friends, socially distant, of course. And of course, a shout out to all of those who are fighting for our freedom here in the United States, all those who are currently and in the past were deployed. We thank you for your services, and we had a great weekend. I hope you had a great weekend as well. Let's bring in Tamar Sher. She is alongside us. Tamar, how are you doing today?
Doing great. It was beautiful outside this Memorial Day, and then it started to shower. So I brought my yellow dress, like we were just talking about, to bring in some sunshine on
There you
this
go.
kind of gloomy afternoon. But how are you doing? You played some golf today.
I did. Dad and I were in a little member action today. Made a few birdies. We didn't win, but that's not the point, right? The point's just to get
Right.
out there and have some fun. So we were able to do that. And as we start to get sports back, the world is starting to get sports back, or at least there's the idea of sports coming back. All states are going to be operating differently tomorrow, but what we've heard these past few days now is the hardest hit state, New York. Governor Cuomo is now saying that New York will allow pro teams to start practicing here very shortly, which is the Buffalo Bills, the Jets, the Giants, the Mets, the Yankees, the Rangers, the Islanders. All these New York teams are going to be able to start practicing, which is big for the state that's been hit the hardest to come out and say, you know what, I think we're ready for the pro sports to start getting going again. And I think people need sports to come back.
Right. And Governor Cuomo, that's exactly what he was saying. He wants sports back in any
Mm-hmm.
capacity, like we've been talking about. So as of Sunday, the NHL was saying, you know what, we're not still not talking about bringing in practicing, but now they say that they're limiting it and that they're allowing 6 players maximum in the first return to practices. So NHL now getting on board and following suit with the discussions the NBA is having. But New York is really saying, I know we've been hit hard, but there's still going to be those safety precautions in play, but we want sports back at some capacity.
Yeah, we have been without sports for so long. It's going to be great just to get something back, whatever it is. And I know Tampa Bay, the Rays were in Tropicana today. They got a workout in. They said it was just great to be back with teammates, to be back with friends, and to see people's faces again, not on screens. And I think we're going to get that as teams start to meet. You mentioned the NBA. The NBA is attempting to come back possibly in July. And what it looks like is it will be in Orlando. They're going to do the bubble system in the ESPN Wide World of Sports in Orlando. But it's still to be determined whether or not that will be with all 30 teams, maybe a mixture of playoff teams and a few fringe teams, or if it'll just be playoff teams. My opinion, I think they're going to lean toward just playoff teams. Logistically, how do you have 30 teams in one location and keep them socially distant? It just seems very difficult. But it feels like the NBA is moving in that direction. They have an owners meeting on Friday where they want to kind of make the decision, but it's starting to look like Orlando and a possible return in July.
Right. And like you're saying, it's so on edge of what's going to be happening. Because right now, what's good that we're starting to see is that they want to start picking up practices. I think that's like the first step because they don't want those injuries if they plan on having any sort of play happen, whether that be a continuation of the regular season or the playoffs and have a shortened kind of or a lessened team per se. But that what's really important right now is to just start getting those practices in because you don't want injuries to happen, especially when people have not been able to play or be in any sort of practice form in the past couple of months.
That's going to be the most interesting part is baseball is not just going to be able to go out there and play. They're going to have to get practice because there's no way you just go from sitting and watching everything unfold to, okay, here's a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, try and hit it. And you mentioned the injuries in the NBA is a big issue. So that's something to watch for sure. When do they start opening facilities for practicing? When does maybe a very shortened spring training start for baseball? Those are the questions that people are asking right now. But there's always the moments that bring you back to reality. And that's kind of what we got this weekend. Patrick Ewing, the head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas, former New York Knicks legend in the NBA, was diagnosed with COVID-19. And he has come back from the hospital. He's in improving shape, but it's just a reminder that yeah, we're making progress as a nation, but it's not gone yet, and we are far from it. And Patrick Ewing, kind of that example of it can hit anybody, and it's not gone yet.
It really puts things into perspective, Austin. I mean, right now in Missouri, there's a bunch of cases out. This has nothing to do with sports, but if you saw the Lake of the Ozarks there were tons of people partying. It's obviously not only happening in Missouri, it's happening all over the world. But this is just a reminder that this is still serious. We still need to take the safety precautions seriously. And if you want sports to come back in any capacity, you have to make sure that you're following those rules outside and inside the league to be able to kind of have something back in the resemblance of normalcy, even though it's not going to be normal. But still, you want to keep those safety precautions wherever you are.
You heard it here, folks. Tamar Sher telling you what you need to hear. If you want sports back, let's be smart. We all want them back, but we got to all do our part in the process. So those are some of today's headlines. We'll get to a few quick ones at the end of the show, but we have a great show for you today. Joining us here in just a moment, Blake Ahearn, head coach of the Austin Spurs, as well as Jason Penix will join us later on in the show. He's the senior director of track operations at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What would have been Indy 500 weekend, obviously not to be this year. It will be in August. We'll talk to Jason about all of that and what that race means to the city of Indy. But in order to get our guest started, let's bring in our first guest who is here with us on Unpaid Interns on our Zoom show. It is the head coach of the Austin Spurs, the G League affiliate of the San Antonio Spurs, Blake Ahearn. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you? Can you see me or no?
Not yet. Let's see if I can get you on here. We still have – there it is. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Hey, even though I'm considered a millennial, that doesn't mean I'm great with technology, okay? It's a work in progress.
You figured it out. It's great. We can hear you perfectly. That's
Awesome.
What counts.
Well, we are happy to have you here on the show with us, our first coach guest of our very young show here. But I guess first question, we're all having it differently. What's quarantine been like for you the past couple months? Obviously, season halted all of a sudden in March. What's it been like the past few weeks?
I never knew how excited I'd be for school to be finished than when I was a parent teaching a second grader and a first grader. And so that's what the whole past 2 months has been. I got an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So a lot of time with them, a lot of time, teaching, makeshift homework, schoolwork, all that kind of stuff. But in my profession, getting home time like this is invaluable. I mean, as much as we travel, as much as we're on the road, I'm used to my kids kind of standing by the door saying, "Dad, don't leave." And then now I think they're trying to tell me to leave and get out of the house as much as we've been around each other. But, it's just kind of like everybody trying to find the new norm. And, it was great yesterday seeing like the first live sports. I'm a big golfer, so watching the match and everything like that was pure entertainment. And, so it's been good. It's been a struggle, at times kind of like it has been for everybody, but glad to see things are at least progressing towards more of normality here soon.
And talking about normality, you're head coach for the G League team. What do you think? What are your opinions on the continuation of the regular season or playoffs in the league in general?
Yeah, for the NBA, the G League, we can obviously say that that's probably not going to happen because as much as we travel by commercial airliners. And I told the story when we found out, we were playing in LA the night we found out, like we were running out, or the guys were running out to play the Lakers affiliate when the whole Rudy Gobert thing happened. And, we had 3 of our San Antonio guys with us. So immediately they're in LAX the next day, they're flying back, they get immediately quarantined. So we kind of knew once all this happened, the G League was probably not going to happen again. They haven't officially canceled it, but we're not holding G League guys aren't holding our breath. But I think from an NBA standpoint, first and foremost, we all want it to be as safe as we can possibly make it. And I think they're kind of doing that with what looks to be maybe Disney World as the landing spot for teams. And this is where it gets up for the kind of, like Jordan and LeBron debate with like how we're going to do these teams. Is it just the playoff teams? Is it just everybody? Should it be like an NCAA tournament style? And I think if there's ever a time to try something new, this is it, because we're in such a different time period with what's going to happen. I think at the end of the day, as long as we can get everybody in there, have it be safe, and get some semblance of live sports, I think it'll be great.
Well, this has been a question I've seen on all the talking heads on ESPN and all those channels. Is there going to be an asterisk next to the champion of the 2020 NBA season? Is that going to be something that people look back and they're like, well, yeah, Giannis won his first championship, but was it really a championship? Do you see anything like that happening, or you think once somebody wins, everyone will kind of forget how they won?
I can guarantee you the champion won't say there's an asterisk. That's for sure. Other people may have something to say about it, but it's if I'm not mistaken, the Spurs won in '99. I think the year of the lockout. I think that's the year where they only played like 50 games. So after a few years, I mean, I don't care whatever level, winning a championship, you're going to have to beat really good teams, and you can argue this may be harder, in this aspect. I mean, take the Lakers or the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, having such a great season, leading, I think they're both leading the East and West, and now all of a sudden everything comes to a complete halt. You have a version of what is almost like a summer break, and now you come in and maybe play right away a 7-game series with, maybe it's everybody lumped into one, no East and West, so you may be playing whoever and somebody in the East in the first round that you don't see a whole lot. So there's going to be a big discrepancy as far as, what we're going to do or how it's going to happen, but it's going to make for great TV, and I don't think anybody's going to care about that. We're all ready to watch some.
And you saw some time in the NBA as well. So if you were in these players' shoes, what would you be thinking? Would you be excited about what's to come? Would you be just itching to get back into the game, or nervous?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, first and foremost, a lot of the players in the league, we got families, we have kids, and, that's like usually our first thought process. Okay, if we do this, is my family coming? Are we going to be safe? All that. But let's say we can get all that, everything's going to work out okay on that end. I know guys, and even the guys that on our team and people I've talked to around the league, they're just so itching to get back to playing. I mean, that's what, it's what we love to do. It's what we love to be a part of, that competition. It's why sports means so much to this country, and we can see every day people are craving it. And, we got kind of the UFC fight club here at my house with my 3 daughters every day. So I get to see a little bit of it. But yeah, so, I mean, it's, everybody's kind of got their own opinion, but I think we're getting closer. And, every day you wake up and you're watching TV and, you're reading different things. And I think we're getting into the right direction of, having sports on again soon.
Well, let's take a trip down memory lane here, Coach. I believe you're from St. Louis, correct?
That's right.
What's the journey been like for you? St. Louis, all the way to the NBA, now a coach in the G League. Kind of walk us through what life has been like here for you professionally.
Yeah. Tamar, he didn't ask what high school I went to. That's like the number one thing, right?
I know.
I don't know St. Louis high schools. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's funny. If you're from St. Louis, and this actually happened, I kid you not, I was playing in Europe, and I ran into somebody. I was in Madrid, and my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, we were walking, and we were trying to find a Starbucks, and it was an American girl. She was from Chicago. Husband was from St. Louis. And when we said that, she's like, oh, what high school did you go to? And it's no matter what, if you see somebody from St. Louis, wherever you are in the world, it's the first thing they say. I don't know why or what it is, but That's
For
what.
reference, Austin goes to Indiana with me, and he's from Indiana. So there's a lot of St. Louis people that'll try and bring it into Bloomington,
Oh, okay.
but we'll try and get you caught up on the trend.
Well, then I guess I should pause and say, what high school did
There
you
you
go
go.
to?
Well, I'll start there. So I went to DeSmet High School here in St. Louis, Jesuit all boys Catholic school. From there, I played college basketball at Missouri State. Graduated from there in 2007, and then I tell people my playing career, I traveled to 37 states, 18 countries on 4 different continents. So played for a
Wow.
handful of, at the time, D-League teams, now G-League teams, 3 NBA teams. And the countries I was based out of was Spain, Italy, Ukraine, which was EuroLeague, which was really nice. But my wife and I also lived through a war there, which was not great. China and Puerto Rico. So I usually say blindfold yourself, throw a dart at a map, and there's a very good chance I've been there, done that, crossed paths. And at the time, I thought it was unfortunate, all the places I was going and as much traveling as I was doing. But I think now, having become a coach, I'm so grateful for all the experiences, all the different teammates, all the coaches I played for. It's really helped me in my profession today. And most importantly, I got lifelong friendships from people all over the world, which to me is the best part.
Wonderful. And then talk about your transition too. So you played overseas for a while, and is that the moment then after that you went and played in the NBA for a bit? I know you had a couple games in there and then transitioned back to G League.
Yeah, so it was back and forth. I was the 4th round pick to the Dakota Wizards in Bismarck, North Dakota. And if anybody's ever been to Bismarck, it is the coldest place you will ever go in your life. I think I was there on the record temperature, 44 below, regular temperature. They advised you for like 2 or 3 weeks not to go outside unless you absolutely have to. And we were hopping in a cargo van driving to practice at our civic center, which, I mean, makes for the stories and, you know, those relationships all the better. So, yeah, it was back and forth, Tamar, from G League, NBA, Europe. I mean, I was that guy who's grinding, trying to make it, just trying to find good situations. So, you know, I'm grateful for it because I got to see a whole lot of the world, and then, you know, get to be around some pretty neat people as well.
And you're being too humble because, Austin, I'm sure you know this, but Blake here was all-time career in single season NCAA. He holds the records for #1 in both of those slots still today. So the Austin Spurs have a great head coach. And you also coached at my high school, Clayton High School. So walk us through your transition. Why did you choose to go into coaching after playing for so long?
Well, the biggest reason was my wife and I, we just had my 3rd daughter. So I had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. And I wouldn't say my life was crazy. My wife's life was crazy. She was going through a lot, and I was trying to help any way I could. And I just didn't want to lug the kids all over the world, never knew where I was going to be or anything like that. So, you know, I knew I was going to retire at the end of the year and went back to St. Louis, and I was just going to kind of catch my breath after all those places I had been. And Bob Bone, the athletic director at Clayton High School, had reached out to me and said, hey, yeah, I knew eventually you're going to get into coaching, but if you're going to be here, you know, you want to sit down and talk about, you know, we have our head coaching position open. And, you know, my agent that I use now, he told me, and this was before I was working with him, I called him about it. And he says, any experience you can get as a head coach, no matter what level, is invaluable experience. In my 2 years coaching high school at Clayton High School and at DeSmet were the best things that I could have done. And hopefully for the next 30 years, I'm still coaching. And I'll still say that at the end. It was the greatest thing I could have done was go there and be a coach. My dad went to Clayton. I had cousins, uncles, so I knew Clayton really well. I kind of had some history with that, and very grateful that the Greyhounds gave me my coaching start, and still have the sweatshirt, still have a lot of gear that I still wear today.
Awesome. And one story to share, I shared this with Austin really quick. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I had a couple buddies that were in the same class as your brother. And when you were drafted to the Heat,
Mm-hmm.
He was in school. He was called to the principal's office, nervous, like, what did I do? And he
Yeah.
came back just floored, like, wow, my brother made it. He's
Right.
awesome. So clearly you have a big fan base here in St. Louis too. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's I played 129 college basketball games, and I had 8 people at 115 of them. So the family support that I got, and it was usually my dad, my uncle, my cousin Sumner who went to Clayton, my brother Riley, my mom, my sister were the kind of standard 6, and there were always a couple, 2 or 3 that interchanged. But yeah, when I got that call, I called them, and they hopped on a flight the next day and met me in Miami, and it was great to have all of them there supporting me.
Do you still have the shot?
Occasionally, yeah, I don't do it too much. I'm more work on my golf game when I can, which is not very often. So,
Well, what's the golf game like?
it used to be pretty good, but now with the kids and everything like that, I would say it's erratic. Some days are good, some days are bad. Kind of like Tom a little bit yesterday. Had some good shots. It was a little bit here, a little bit there. But I always enjoy it any chance I can to get out there.
Now you have time. You have time on your hands that you'll be able to perfect it.
That's right. Exactly.
So how often are you able to get out on the court with the guys you coach? Show them a little bit of what you have.
Well, I get out there. That's the one good thing about the G League now. We have a lot of young coaches on our staff. All of us are former players. So I got a guy by the name of Matt Nielsen, played for the Australian national team, played high-level Europe. Another guy, Peter Bozic, he was a head coach in Europe and then also played in Europe. A guy by the name of Reese Gaines, who played at Louisville. I think was like the 13th overall pick, if I'm not mistaken. Kenny Trevino, who actually spent time in San Antonio helping there as well. So all of us and the guys that I've had the past 2 or 3 years, we're all young guys. So we get out there any chance we can get, not for long stints, because if we're out there long, then we get exposed, because it's the level of talent nowadays is extremely high. And, the one thing we're grateful for, and I am, to work in the Spurs organization, is we're surrounded by such great people, great players, on the court, but the people are phenomenal. So you get out there, you get, some trash talk and whatnot, but my mind and my legs are not in sync anymore. I still think I can do things that I did, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just not the case anymore. So I try not to embarrass myself.
And obviously short season, where was your team when the pandemic hit? How were you guys doing? I saw you were having a winning record.
Yeah.
So what did it look like?
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely trending in the right direction. We had 9 rookies on our team this year, which is a lot. 9 guys right out of college, learning the NBA, G League, kind of lifestyle, as far as, you don't get to practice a whole lot because of how we travel, commercial airliners. And, it takes a couple months to get used to that. There's a lot of free time and how you handle that. But they were awesome. Great guys, good to be around. I think we were 3rd in the West when we finished. So they were playing extremely well. They were playing together. The best thing I can share, about our group, I think we were in the West, number 1 in assists, which in the G League, I always tell people the last 2 things on people's mind when they play like minor league sports is defending and sharing the ball, because everybody's trying to, get a call up, go to Europe, do something, for themselves. So our guys were awesome. We were getting ready to, I think we were like in the last 7 or 8 games and getting ready to, get ramped up for the playoffs, and everything hit. And, it's where, unfortunately you've had myself life experiences that put everything in perspective. And, they had a chance to play 43 games. I think they did a heck of a job, and, we'll see where it picks up whenever things get back to normal.
I got to ask the corny question. As a resident of Fort Wayne, do you have any memories of coming and playing the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, or any fun memories of the city itself?
Don Hall's Guest House.
Yes.
The greatest hotel ever. And we talk about this is a funny story. So when I decided to go with my agent, I met him, and he represents a good group of guys, and guys that actually played when I was a player. They were coaching in the G League. So when I went and met in summer league, and I was standing around a group of them, and I thought, man, here are all these coaches. I'm going to get to hear great like NBA stories, because I'm a big story guy. I just love hearing stories. I love, all that kind of stuff. And I kid you not, for 2 hours, Austin, all it was them talking about G League stories. And all it was G League, Don Hall's Guest House, Des Moines, Iowa, all these different places. So, and anytime you run across it, that's all the guys talk about, because it was a grind. You're going through things. But one of the best parts about Fort Wayne was, to me, like my family could come because it was close to home. So that was one of the games that they could always come to. But yeah, it's the heated floors too in the bathroom. They always had heated floors. Don't ask me why. I remember that. But Don Hall's Guest House, and you had to have a key, like an actual, key to get into your house. It wasn't a regular card key. You had to use a regular key.
The Don Hall's Guest House. How about that? Can't say I've ever stayed. I've eaten at Don Hall's. I've never stayed there.
Yeah.
Do you have any Popovich stories? Do you have anything like that? I know you're a storyteller, so what do you have in terms of Greg Popovich?
Yeah, a lot of them, probably are better for when you're having a cold drink and stuff like that. But no, the best thing I can say about Pop, and this is before I started, I had a short stint with them as a player. I always tell people, if you sneezed, you probably missed it. It wasn't very long, but it was enough to, make an impression and everything. And I remember calling him a few times to, ask for some help. And he called me back in the middle of one of their playoff runs. And I left a message. He called me back the next day apologizing. Hey, sorry I couldn't get back to you. I mean, the guy's playing a game in the middle of the playoffs, and here's a guy who, didn't put any banners up for him, didn't make him any of his money. And everybody talks about how great he is as a coach, which he is. He's arguably the best of all time. But who he is as a person goes far beyond what he does on the basketball court. And anytime I call him or anytime I ask for some help, he lets me be a part of everything he does, all his coaches' meetings, training camps, get to run the draft workouts for him. And I'm just grateful to be around him and guys like him, each and every day.
So he's a little different than the guy we see in the first quarter interviews and press conferences.
I see both sides. I think it's very well documented. I don't know if he would articulate this much if he was on, with us right now. He's not very much of a media person. But I kind of get it. Those guys, they get the same questions asked nonstop every single day. And, I don't want to say he's done it forever. I don't want to talk about his age or anything, but he's done it a while, and, he's probably got a lot of the same questions over and over again. But yeah, he's makes for good entertainment for sure.
That's like us with the constant, what are you doing for quarantine? What are you doing during this time?
Right.
How are you feeling? But
if you were a betting man, and not saying you are a betting man, but if the NBA came back, where would you lean in terms of a team to be a favorite to win it?
Ooh, man, that's tough. It's obviously the Lakers are playing well. Milwaukee's done a good job. There's a few teams in East. Toronto surprised a lot of people, and it's so hard. I think you could just kind of pick any one of the top teams because nobody really knows how guys are going to come back. It's been such a layoff. It's just like having a normal off season almost. So, it's not. I know I'm not really going out on the limb and picking a team. I mean, I would. I'm a guy that I got. I don't mind doing that, but it's hard to tell just because of, just a long layoff.
Tough to pick against LeBron though.
Yeah. I mean, with what they've done in their team, and, it's he seems very motivated right now. So it'd be a good safe bet, I think.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Coach, so much for hopping on with us for a little while, and appreciate the storytelling. And hopefully you enjoy your next day, whenever that may be, in the great city of Fort Wayne. We hope that we can make Don Hall's Guest House even better for you the next time you come. But thanks for jumping on here with us, Coach. Best of luck to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. And one last thing, with the Clayton thing, I wouldn't have gotten a job if it wasn't for Tamar's dad. Because he's on the committee and he grilled me with questions to make sure that I was qualified to do the job. And very grateful for everything that he did and all the help he gave me, my first go around. But yeah, thank you.
Well, I remember hearing about you. Our family's a big fan of yours. So seriously, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being such an incredible person and coach. So this has been so wonderful having you on.
Awesome. Anytime. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, take care, Coach. Thanks so much.
All right. See ya.
Well, Tamar, another fantastic guest here on Unpaid Interns. We got to send you a shout out for pulling in these great guests out of the St. Louis area. We had Alex Rich join us on Friday, and he was absolutely phenomenal. Now Blake Ahearn today. I think we could get some good stories out of him, maybe off the podcast. But
with a cold drink is what he said.
We'll get a cold drink in hand. We'll go and we'll have a good time after this quarantine and talk story time with Blake Ahearn. But really appreciate him coming on here and talking to us about the NBA. Well, tomorrow we had a great guest there with Blake Ahearn of the Austin Spurs, and now we're happy to bring in Jason Penix, the Senior Director of Track Operations at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Jason, so glad to have you. How's it going?
Hey, it's great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a very special weekend in Indianapolis. It always is, Memorial Day weekend. Everybody rallies around this race. And now it's gone. Did it feel kind of weird this weekend, just not having the race?
Yeah, I mean, talk about strange, right? I've been going to this race as a fan and now as an employee for, north of 25 years. So this was definitely the strangest May of my life. And professionally, extremely strange because you're so used to the hustle and grind of what May means. And obviously we didn't have any of that this year.
I mean, what does this race mean to Indianapolis? Austin and I were just talking. It's such a event for the entire city. So you being a fan, what does it mean?
It's an absolute huge thing for the city itself. It is, not just about the race. It's about all the tourism dollars that flow in due to this. It's about really showcasing our city to the world. It's the largest single day sporting event in the world, and it happens right here in our city. So you think about that, you think about the importance of that, and there's a huge ripple effect when things like this happen and we can't have the event. It's the first time since World War II that this event hasn't happened.
Well, walk us through a normal Memorial Day weekend for you. What does it normally look like? What does pre-race, during the race look like for you and for the city of Indianapolis?
Yeah, pre-race is it's a huge spectacle. I've told people my entire life, even if you don't care about racing, you should still go do this one time, right? And even again, if you don't care about the cars on the track, take in the pageantry, take in the festivities that happen. It kicks off, by 8:39 in the morning. We've got things happening on the racetrack, and the race itself doesn't start till closer to 12:15. So you've got 3 or 3.5 hours of things happening prior to the race. For me, I'm in a new role this year with the Speedway. For the past 15 years, I've been with Indy itself, the actual sanctioning body. So a little bit different role for me now. In the past, I've really been focused on not only, prepping for the event, but inside the race itself and what they call race control, which is kind of like our mission control. And so assisting the people that are in there. I've worked with television in there. So kind of the conduit between our referees and TV, if you will, in the past. And now I've transitioned over to the Speedway. So I'm looking after track operations. So it's really my job to get the facility ready, get the track ready. It's everything from track surface to walls and barriers to, prepping curbs, paint, wall markings, all of that kind of falls now under me. So this would have been a little bit new for me this year, so I'm anxious for August to come around for us to have it happen.
Yeah, what are some of the logistical challenges of it being moved to August? But then what are some of the pros maybe of having this race now in August?
I think I'll start with the pros because it's probably a shorter list, right? I think from a pros standpoint, you've got more time to get ready for sure, right? Now you've got 3 additional months that you've got in your back pocket to make sure you've got all your I's dotted and T's crossed. The con side of it is, certainly it's logistically difficult for fans now, right? for how many years you've planned to come Memorial Day weekend to Indianapolis. Now you've got to shift that to August, and it may not work for everyone, you know. Obviously, we're extremely hopeful that it does, and we hope to have as many fans there as we're allowed to have. And we hope, you know, by then, looking at Governor Holcomb's plan, you know, we should be in a phase by then that would allow us to have as many fans as we are comfortable with. So, you know, we look forward to that, and we hope that everything stays good from here on out so that we can have a huge event.
Now, obviously, you've been with the race for a long time. You've been a fan. Now you're working there. Do you have a favorite memory or a couple favorite memories from the race itself?
Oh, gosh.
It's story
you
time,
know,
Jason.
what's that?
It's story time.
It's story time, yeah. You know, I would say my first race in a working capacity was 2006, I guess, where I wasn't an intern and I'd kind of shifted into more, you know, real responsibilities with what I had with the race. So that's forever going to stick in my mind. 2005 was the first year Danica Patrick competed, and she led the race inside of like 10 laps to go. I just remember the deafening roar of the crowd and all into that. So that's certainly a huge memory as well. You look to more recent times. In my past job with IndyCar, I managed what we called our Road to Indy program. So it was a 3-step ladder. So kind of like baseball, single A, double A, triple A ball up to the big leagues. We had that same kind of setup for IndyCar racing. And so I managed that program. So it was always really personal and gratifying for me to see those drivers make it from the lower levels up to the Indy 500, because that's obviously a huge deal for them. And I felt like maybe I, you know, had just a small piece of helping them get there.
Do you have a favorite race? Maybe a favorite finish in the time you've been working there?
The fan in me, before I started working, the 1992 finish with Alan Jr. and Scott Goodyear, the closest finish was, I was a huge Little Owl fan growing up as a kid. So that was a big deal for sure. I remember that. In more recent times, gosh, I mean, Alexander Rossi's win at the 100th running on fuel mileage, it certainly wasn't the closest finish by any means, but you had kind of that nail-biting, you know, time there. Where is he going to make it on fuel or not? He was a rookie, right? So there's so many factors that go into that. It just wasn't someone you thought was going to win. If I had to pick one in more recent times, I would probably pick 2011 when Dan Weldon won. J.R. Hildebrand was leading the race, 1 lap to go, coming out of turn 4, hit the wall, unfortunately, which allowed Weldon to scoot by and collect the win right at the start-finish line. So that was, I mean, not just in motorsports, you look at just sports in general, that was just an incredible, incredible thing.
I believe Dr. Clavio told me you are an Indiana grad, correct?
That's true, yes.
Yes.
Class of 2006, so I'm showing my age here.
So what does the Little 500 do for you in terms of excitement, having been around the Indy 500? Is it an event that you enjoyed while you were at IU? Is it an event that you still follow now that you've graduated?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously can't follow it as close as I did when I was there, right? But I always keep an eye on it, and it's always something that not just myself, but the other IU grads that are in our company, we always pay attention to, right? And we know what that weekend means for Indiana. We know what it means on campus, and it's everybody getting together and having a good time and celebrating around, you know, one of the biggest events that happen every year on the campus. So, yeah, we're big fans of it, and we definitely keep an eye on it.
And personally, I am from St. Louis, but I've always known I wanted to go to Indiana, and I've always been a fan of the Little 500, keeping in touch with it. But do you think there's similarities between that fan base of Little 500 and Indy 500, and how does that compare?
Absolutely. I mean, in the past, you know, we've always had what we call our snake pit. And so, you know, we've got musical acts that are a lot more popular than anything I know right now. I'm getting old, right? But you know, so everybody's coming in, they're jamming in the infield, and it can be the middle of the race going on, and you look out there and those guys are just bumping out there in turn 3, right? So, you know, they probably don't even know a race is happening, but that's okay. You know, it's, you know, that race, like we talked about earlier, it's something for everyone, right? And it's about having a good time, and tradition and pageantry and all of those things kind of melted into one. So, yeah, I would say, you know, everybody should do it once. And, you know, I think Little 500, same thing, right? It's embracing what Indiana University is about for that one weekend. It's a lot of fun for everybody.
Have you been able to get behind the wheel of an Indy 500 car on the Motor Speedway?
No, they would never let me in a race car. I'm definitely not qualified for that. I've certainly been around the track many times. We have a 2-seater Indy car that a professional driver drives, and you can ride as a passenger kind of sitting behind them. I've done that before, and that was pretty thrilling. I mean, you're hitting speeds at 200 miles an hour down the straightaways. So you think about that experience, you add 20 or 30 miles an hour to that, you add 32 other cars on the track around you, and that would be the Indy 500, right? So it's pretty mind-blowing to think, what that really would be like.
Yeah, take us through that moment. You're sitting in the back seat of a car that's going 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, 200 miles an hour, the wind's pulling your helmet up, trying to rip it off your head. Of course, there's a lot of buffeting going on. Your head's kind of bouncing around. And so you're in a straight line, and all of a sudden, you're slinging straight to the left, right? Because you're going hard into the corner. And you're doing this, and it's 40 seconds around the place, 45 seconds around the place, and you've covered 2.5 miles, which is just crazy to think, right? So it's over so quick, but it's a complete thrill ride for sure.
And the Indy 500 also is, in my opinion, just really motivated towards the fan base that it carries, just taking it back to what you were saying, and Little 500 included. So what do you think the impact is going to be now that no fans are going to be allowed probably in August, or a half capacity, whatever the proposals are?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. We don't quite know what to expect with fans for August just yet. It'll certainly depend where the state's at. I think, look, are we going to get 350, 400,000 people like we typically do? Probably not, right? You're going to have people that are still nervous about doing those things in general, and I totally get that. We have our July event coming up, July 4th weekend, with NASCAR in the Brickyard 400 at the Speedway. IndyCar is also racing, but on the road course, so not the same oval track that they run for the 500. And I bring that up because we are allowed to have fans for that event, and we're going to cap it at a certain capacity, roughly 1/3 of what we would typically have for an event out there. We'll cap for the Brickyard, right? So we're making all the preparations that you can think of. Every fan that comes in is going to get a mask and hand sanitizer. We'll have temperature checks for competitors and for fans. A complete full health team, doctors, nurses, everybody on staff there on site, ready to tackle anything, right? So I feel like we're really well prepared as an organization that focuses on events and on sporting events. There's only so much you can do, but I feel like we're doing all of it and trying to make everyone feel safe and comfortable. So kind of looking ahead, if that would be the case for the 500 in August, it's my hope that we can, kind of extrapolate those things we learn in July and apply them to August and make everyone feel like, hey, it's safe to go do this. We've talked about fans in every other row and spacing within those rows, so just to make sure there's that social distance that folks feel comfortable with.
Now, I've seen some things about, obviously, the class of 2020 kind of denied a graduation ceremony. I've seen some things about some graduations happening at the track. Can you talk about what that's been like, what it's been like to give these kids the opportunity not only to have a ceremony, but to do it at the Motor Speedway?
Yeah, Speedway High School partnered with them to put on graduation. And, look, we have this big, massive 2.5 mile oval facility with tons of space in the middle. There's a graphic that exists out there that shows how many different iconic sports venues, Yankee Stadium, Churchill Downs where they run the Kentucky Derby, all of those things fit within the infield of the Speedway, right? And the place is massive. So it's sitting there, it's ready for use. And so as we look at, some of these opportunities, we're like, hey, this makes total sense for us to help these kids out. Obviously, they're within our community there in Speedway. And so that's why we decided to do what we did, and happy that we were able to do that. This past weekend, we hosted an event with Gleaners Food Bank. Again, folks could come in to the facility. So again, point being, we've got this facility. We might as well use it how we can to help whomever we can during these times.
Now, when do you see possibly trying to move toward preparations again for the race, starting to get the facilities ready? Are you doing that right now, and what is the process behind that?
Yeah, it's full on right now for our July 4th weekend. So, the normal processes and getting the facility ready for fans, for competitors, that's all happening right now. We'll take what we learned from July and apply to August the best we can. So, I was in a meeting this past week where there's still, there's all kinds of questions coming up already for August and what it means for the 500 in a good way, right? We're talking about facility prep and how we're going to host these fans. And so the work never stops, or the prep never stops, We get to the day after the Indy 500. I guarantee you're going to be talking about what we can do better for the next year.
Well, we really appreciate you jumping on the show here, Jason. Obviously, supposed to be a special weekend here in Indiana. It wasn't to the extent it normally is, but I know that we're all excited for late August when we get to watch the running, and I'm sure you are as well. So thanks for joining us. Good luck to you. Stay safe, and looking forward to the race in August.
All right, really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So tomorrow, let's wrap it up. We had two great guests with us. Blake Ahearn of the Austin Spurs, a G League affiliate of the San Antonio Spurs, and Jason Penix. He is the Senior Director of Track Operations at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Two great guests. Tamar, what were your takeaways from the two people we got to talk to today?
I like story time.
Yes.
That's been the main takeaway for today is, because it's better to talk about the fun memories that we do have and remind ourselves why we love sports so much. Blake had totally so many more stories to tell, and I'm interested to see where those would land. But also, I know it wasn't the weekend you had pictured being in Indiana and the Indy 500, but still, it gives us hope that they're starting those preparations for August now. And it really gives the fans hope. It gives us hope. What about you? What were your main takeaways?
Well, I think it's exciting to hear that they're hoping to have a good crowd and that they're ready to kind of take on the race as usual in August. And as someone who loves the race, have loved it all my life, I think it'll be great to see it in a normal-ish capacity, whatever that may be come August. But it sounds like they're putting some great work together. And before we go, I got to give a shout out. Yesterday, the match number 2, Champions for Charity, was on TNT with our guy, Brian Anderson. Have to give everybody a shout out from TNT, all the producers, the camera people, the announcers, the golfers, the charities. Everything was just fantastic. I thought it was just an excellent event that featured some really fun golf, but some great money for charity. They raised $20 million for COVID-19 relief and a really
double the
fun
amount.
round.
Double the amount that they were hoping for.
Yeah, they started with 10. The 4 golfers donated 10, and then the rest of the world donated 10 more. So it was really cool to see. It was an absolute blast for me to watch some live golf. And I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody involved because they did a great job with it. And these are the things that could be duds. They could be poorly done. And I thought yesterday's was just flawless from everybody involved. So got to give them a shout out. If any of them are watching the Unpaid Interns, we loved what you did yesterday. Anything else you want to say, Tamar, before we take off?
No, I mean, those 2 charity golf matches kind of led into the PGA Tour coming up and just into propelling us into what sports may be looking like. So hopefully we're going to get some fun things happening in the next couple of months, practices going on, and maybe some more fun charity events to help with this terrible pandemic that we're trying to stay positive through.
Absolutely. Well, coming up on this show on Wednesday, we have some great guests. We have a great co-host. I promised you Connor Hines last week. He didn't show, and that's my fault, but he will be here on Wednesday. He and I will be co-hosting the Wednesday edition. So that's actually tomorrow because we're doing this special edition on Tuesday. We'll be back our normal time Wednesday, 11 o'clock, live on YouTube. And then you can catch all of our stuff on Spreaker Podcast, iTunes Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. We are there for you. And we will have Zach Kiefer of The Athletic joining us to talk Colts and the NFL and what their offseason looks like right now. And then we'll have Brendan Porath of SB Nation, as well as a host of a podcast called The Shotgun Start. He'll be joining us to talk all things PGA Tour and the match that we just watched on Sunday. So Tamar, thanks so much again for coming on and co-hosting. You continue to be fantastic, and you delivered a great guest with Blake Ahearn. So thanks so much for coming on, and stay safe. We'll see you soon.
See you, Austin. Thanks so much.
That'll do it here from the Unpaid Interns. We'll see you on Wednesday.